onto this now. The Democratic Alliance unpacked the extent and implications of the collapse of service delivery and governance in the city of Tshwane yesterday. Now, this 4 months after the city was placed under administration. I'm joined by Mpho Nawa, and he is the City of Tshwane administrator. He's heading that particular role. And we're also joined by Randall Williams. He is the DA mayoral candidate for the City of Tshwane. The two gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Let me start with you, Mr. Williams. You are alleging that service delivery has basically completely collapsed. This as a result of the ANC-appointed administrators. What do you mean by this, and what are some of the key examples of service delivery having collapsed?
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for that question. Let's just recap a bit. In March, when we were placed under administration, we had political instability in the city, but we had a stable administration that was delivering services to the people. And in our court case, the full bench of the Gauteng North High Court found that there wasn't any service delivery problem, that there was not a non-fulfillment of executive obligations, and that exceptional circumstances did not exist.
Mr. Williams, let me cut in there.
To give you a point.
Let me cut in there, Mr. Williams, very quickly. You did not have a mayor in place, nor did you have a municipal manager in place. That then meant that the city of Tshwane had what is called a leadership crisis. So how could you possibly have delivered when you did not have a leadership in place?
We didn't have a political leadership in place. Council was still in place, but it was not functioning properly. As far as the departments are concerned who deliver services, all the group heads were in place. The group heads are the heads of department, and they were responsible for delivering services. So services were delivered. And the High Court also found that services were indeed delivered. Now, what we have today is that the city is in chaos, not only from perspective that services are not being delivered, but also the city is now in financial crisis. We left, when we were kicked out of the city had a huge surplus, over 3 billion rand surplus. Now, I surmise there is nothing left.
All right.
And as far as delivering a service to people like billing is in a mess. Yesterday, for example, there were long queues at customer care centers for people to query the wrong accounts that have been sent to them.
All right, Mr.
And the
Williams,
fact is, a lot of times,
I think you've made the
customer care
point.
centers are not operating.
I think you've made the point. Thank you very much. Let's get the response from the head administrator in the city of Tshwane, Mpho Nawa. Mr. Nawa, how do you respond? The city of Tshwane is in chaos.
Well, thank you very much, my brother and Mr. Randall. I don't think Mr. Randall is telling the truth. Just let me indicate that prior to the intervention, and as we are resolving the problem today, the city has been leaking financially big time. And Mr. Randall must know that administratively the city was more collapsing more than any other. All senior managers had no delegations. There was directionless in the city. A lot of things that Mr. Randall refers to of service delivery. The purpose of intervention was precisely that. Mr. Randall knows that the Human Rights Commission has made a point about water quality in Hammanskraal, the flood victims of Mamelodi, service delivery general across even at the outskirts of the city, and that's being a response to that process.
Mr. Nawa, the man who is talking against you this morning, he says that when the DA-led administration in Tshwane left, there was a surplus of 3 billion rand, but right now he fears that that municipality has no money in the coffers.
Well, it's not true, sir.
What did you find when you got there?
Well, I don't think he's telling the truth about surplus. And if you want to split the two, the money that he referred to, which is the investment of the bonds that we've had, that money is still kept as it is. Even under the pressure of the union says, pay us through that money, we said we can't touch that money. Mr. Randall must know that the city has actually, there's a lot of reduction on revenue precisely because of COVID, and people have lost jobs, and we've had a problem of revenue collection. And that, if he refers to that, we are doing everything humanly possible. Mr. Randall must know that we have structured the budget that's going to trim and ensure that the city revive itself back to where it used to be.
How do you respond to a direct allegation that service delivery has collapsed?
Well, I don't believe that. But there was a two weeks service labor problems, and since then we have actually had to work until very late. So we had to get people to work midnight to go out refuse, to build back the electricity where there are problems. So we're struggling. Labor has put us into a very difficulty, but I must say to him that we have done alternatives to get to say service to be provided. And I think the feedback I received yesterday I've hosted the Command Council, and I think communities across the city says thanks for even doing it on an alternative process. And as we speak, we've had an agreement with the labor, and service delivery is back to your order.
Mr. Williams, let's come back to you. In your view, what is going to cure the ills that are plaguing the city of Tshwane right now? Could it be a fresh election?
Definitely not. The High Court, the full bench of the High Court, already set aside the decision of the provincial government to place Tshwane under administration. So as Mr. Nawa is now sitting there, they are there unlawfully against a court judgment. So on Monday, we will have another hearing at the Supreme Court of Appeal, the third hearing, and we believe, again, the court will rule in our favor and that councillors will return to office.
It would appear, Mr. Williams,
administrators will be removed.
It would appear that the provincial government is challenging that, and if my information is correct, they are heading to the Constitutional Court to try and overturn the High Court decision in Pretoria that essentially nullified the allegation that you are saying now that Mr. Nawa is there unlawfully.
That's not correct. When a judgment is given, the judgment stands. It's a final judgment until a higher court has overturned it. No higher court has overturned it. And what's happening on the 17th is a hearing that will determine whether the judgment that was granted at the end of April will be implemented immediately. So I expect that we will be back in office at the end of this month. And we're going to stop what's happening currently in the city of Tshwane. The majority of employees are sitting at home on full pay.
All right.
We can't allow that to happen. How can services be delivered?
Mr. Nawa, final word from you. What, in your view, I know you're there as an administrator, but what, in your view, will be the final resolution to this matter? And I asked Mr. Randall specifically, do you think a fresh election would possibly give the city of Tshwane the much stability that is needed?
Well, I would agree with you that I think they do need a fresh election because I think what paralyzes them is the fact that there is no majority party there. The DA, Mr. Randall, talks like they are a majority. His appetite of being a mayor literally blur him. I think he has lost it. So I think the issue that they must get the election, get a majority party, and get the system back to system. Let them get my senior managers to work. Let's stop all the leaks. That's the capital city of South Africa. And Mr. Randall, let me make this point before I closed. We're moving to close all properties that you guys put 128 million for hiring, for use buildings that you don't utilize. Because that is the leak, that is where the mess is. And I know that it's alleged that you are part of that problem. We're going to allege to stop all these issues of security projects that you cost the city for so many securities in one city. We're going to stop all the legal panels that you put everywhere for things that were not there. We are
Right.
going to stop because you guys project yourself as good governance, but the mess that we left in that city is just amazing.
All right,
For a
Mr.
capital
Mpho
city of South
Nawa,
Africa.
let's leave it there for the time being. Mpho Nawa is the head of the administration at the City of Tshwane, or head administrator in the City of Tshwane. And of course, Mr. Randall Williams is the DA mayoral candidate in the City of Tshwane. Thanks to the two of you, gentlemen. Dumi, what do you take out of that conversation?
You know, I just feel that it's definitely an argument that will not come to a point where either party will take accountability. For me, I think at the brunt of this are Tshwane residents.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been complaining about lack of access to electricity, to water, basic needs. And here we have two political parties still, of course, having that power trip,
Yeah.
which is placing Tshwane residents at a disadvantage.
And here's the point, Dumi. One of them says the other shouldn't speak as though they have the absolute majority. And we know that it has been a coalition government since the 2016 local government elections. So, unfortunately, the people who are bearing the brunt of this, it is the residents, but I don't sense from the DA the appetite to go to a fresh election, because if the people of Tshwane are indeed fed up with what is going on there, then they will give whoever that
Right.
they think can run that city proficiently that particular mandate. Right now, I suspect that that is probably what is in the offing, the fresh election.
All right, then we'll have to leave it at that and also just come to this.